Welcome, people. It's Jamil Damji here from Astro Flipping, and I have a very special guest with me today. Mr. Jacob Simpson is a successful Astro Flipper. He has been crushing it in his market, and I'm just amazed at how well he's been doing. But additional to that, another spiritual aficionado, somebody that I can speak a lot to with regards to meditation and other things that I'm interested in as well. But Jacob Simpson, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate those kind words. And likewise, I love being able to talk to you and share those, mindset tricks, meditation tricks, and all that as well. So I really appreciate you having me on. Awesome.
Well, Jacob, I just want to let you know this show is 100% all about you, meaning nobody wants to, hear how cool I am. We want to hear how cool you are. So tell us a little bit about you. Where do you live? Where are you from? What was your upbringing like? How did you get involved in real estate investing and wholesaling? And we'll go from there.
Sure. So my name is Jacob Simpson. I'm here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia market. I'm actually an only child, so I grew up here in Northern Virginia. I went to school, so I've grown up in kind of like a country area. I went to school, in the same area, and I always grew up looking into stocks, right? So my grandpa was huge into stocks. He did really well in stocks. And so I always thought stocks was going to be my go-to. I honestly used to frown upon real estate in ways.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why. I thought, because I've heard horror stories with, renters and stuff like that. So I'm like, yeah, real estate's not for me. So long story short, I was playing Xbox with a buddy of mine about 2.5, 3 years ago. And he's like, he works for a title company up here in Northern Virginia.
Okay.
He's like, hey, you should get into wholesaling. I have someone who keeps coming into the office and they basically are, depositing checks that are pretty big and it would be something that you would probably like. And I'm like, this sounds like a scam, man. I don't even want to get involved in this. I don't know what you're talking about. So fast forward to, honestly, it was probably like a couple of days to a week. My mom is like, you should talk to a buddy of mine. He's in wholesaling and he's in real estate. He's doing very well. So I called him and it turned out that he was in wholesaling as well. And he owns a company here in Northern Virginia that's doing pretty good. So I'm like, all right, let me see what this is all about. So I dove into Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I started looking into all these podcasts.
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm in sales. This is something that would probably be cool to me. I'm interested in it. And at the time, I was kind of getting out a rough period of my life. And so I was just getting into that mindset thing. And I'm like, this is perfect. I get to help people. I can provide value and whatnot. And so I decided to give wholesaling a shot. So the beginning of wholesaling, it was a very rough start. I'm not going to lie.
Please don't. Whoever's watching this, they want to hear the whole story. So yeah, tell us about your time in the mud.
Yeah, man. So for about a year, I was giving wholesaling a shot. Now, I guess to back up a little bit, when I got into wholesaling, I was in a telecommunications role. So I was cold calling people already, and I was just selling my business product to other businesses. Right. So when I found out, through the TTP model, I'm like, oh, okay, I can jump on the phones and start reaching out and giving people a call.
Sure.
Now, I wasn't that familiar with my market, so I jumped on the phones, inexperienced. I had the attitude that I could do this all myself. I didn't really need help from anyone. Started calling, and it took me about a year to get my first deal, but I was bouncing all over the place. So in the very beginning, I would hit
What were you doing in that basketball phase?
Yeah. So in the very beginning, I would hit parts of Northern Virginia for maybe a month or so. And I'd be like, this isn't working. Let me try Maryland. So now I go to Maryland and I'm like, oh, this isn't working. At one point I tried Ohio and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be in Ohio. I tried Jacksonville. I'm like, I want to be in my backyard. And in that time too, I was trying again, I did cold calling. Now cold calling was really where I I guess, focus the majority of my time. But while I was cold calling, I also tried like mail, texting, Facebook ads, Google ads. So again, I was just bouncing all over the place. I wasn't as consistent as I should have been.
So I want to just unpack that, because I think that it's an important thing to highlight, and it's typical for people's journey in this process, right? Is to get in, you get super excited, and then you get all these different bits of information flying at you, right? So of course, you know, cold calling is awesome. My brother TTP, you know, he does a great job helping people do that, but it requires a lot of consistency, a lot of tenacity to be able to stick to the one thing you're doing. And what I found a lot of people fail at when they're trying to cold call is they will move from market to market, list to list. They get about 15 days, 30 days, and then they get frustrated because there's no result, and they quit and they try something else, and it's just never enough time to really get traction. You know, typically your first deal from cold calling doesn't materialize until you're in it 90 days. And
right.
And so that's a difficult thing for a lot of people to sit through. But it's real interesting to hear that you tried all these different mediums. So all the ones that you tried, the cold calling, the texting, the mail, what would you say ended up being most consistent for you, or were any of them?
So it was really strange. So how I got my first deal. So I was getting a lot of leads through cold calling, but I would keep losing my deals to other people. And it was because I was just unfamiliar with my market and what people were buying at. Yep. And so my first deal actually came from a text message, but it came from someone who basically had this house under contract. He was planning to flip it, and another one of his projects ended up getting, I think a project manager on his project became got fired or something happened to him. And so he had to focus on that. And so he was like, hey, do you want to buy this property from me instead? And I'm like, well, this is out of my budget, but I can bring someone to the table who will. So long story short, I connected the dots. Basically, I brought a buyer on who paid, I think he paid $550 for the deal. I had it at $525. So I made $25 on it.
Okay, awesome.
But it wasn't from a homeowner, right? So it was from texting and randomly getting a hold of someone who had a property under contract. So I'm like, how do I replicate that?
Right. Which I think is a good segue into Astro.
Exactly.
So how did you find me? How's Astro been for you? Let's talk about a little bit about that.
For sure. So my second deal, ironically, came from a realtor doing the same thing. Okay, so here, going back to bouncing all over the place, my second deal came from mail that was from a realtor like 4 months later. The realtor didn't know who to bring to the table, so I brought someone who brought a buyer to the table. And so I'm like, okay, again, this isn't from a homeowner. So I'm like, something's not adding up here, right? I'm calling, but I'm not getting any deals from homeowners. I'm getting deals from other people.
Right.
So basically that deal that I did with the wholesaler, I was asking him where the majority of his deals came from, because he's one of the biggest wholesalers here in the area. And he said his deals are coming from other wholesalers. So I'm like, okay, so my first two deals came from other people. His majority of deals are coming from other people. I'm like, how do I figure this out? Like, I'm disconnected from something. We're going the direct to seller way. So I got to figure out how to either reach out to realtors or reach out to wholesalers and figure out how to utilize my buyers list that I've already started building. It was like, I think that day or the next day when I was talking to someone about how to figure this out, that one of your ads popped up.
Okay.
And I'm not going to lie. I've gone through like 6-7 courses. I'm not a huge fan of the so-called gurus of the industry. So I was very, very skeptical to get involved. And I'm like, oh man, let's see what they got. Let's see what they have to say.
Yeah.
So clicked on the ad and they started explaining the model. And I'm like, this is literally what I'm trying to figure out how to do. So that's how I came into Astro Flipping.
Wow. So it was like one of the, I talk a lot about that, things showing up for you right when you need them. It's
Right.
worked that for me my entire life. And so I pop out. Do you remember what ad it was that caught your attention?
I think it was the cold calling one where you're like acting cold. And I'm like, man, you know what? I've made 100,000 calls. I'm cold right now. Like, let me see what they're talking about.
Yeah. Awesome. And all right, so you joined Astro Flipping. Let's talk about that. How has that been? Has it been a bumpy ride, wavy ride? How have you done? What's your success looking like?
Yeah, no, I've loved it. I can hands down say, like I said, I've joined 5 to 6 courses. This is by far the best course that I've joined. You guys go very, very in depth. Now, I already knew a lot of wholesaling, so some of that stuff I kind of glazed over, but the most in-depth course. So it was very helpful in the things that I didn't know. Like a lot of the title process was things that I was a little bit unfamiliar with, which was very helpful. And then connecting with people in the community. So I got my first deal within joining Astro, and I think I joined in September, and I closed my first deal in very early December.
Okay.
And I was actually with 2 other Astro members.
Awesome. Let's talk about that deal. What did that deal look like? Let's go through the mechanics. What was the ultimate profit?
Sure. So basically, I was going through how the course teaches you to outreach, and I came across, someone who had a deal, and it ironically was someone who was in the course with us. And they basically didn't have any buyers to bring to the table at the moment. And so I ended up sending that deal to another person who at the time I didn't really know they were an Astro. And so I sent it over to them, and then they brought the buyer to the table. So basically it was just a group of Astro people working together. Now, it was a weird situation. We were dealing with a probate attorney. And so, at first it was supposed to be $7,000 fee on that one, and then ended up getting knocked down to like $3,500. And then basically the attorney was going to let the deal fall through. And so I had to, I was like, all right, I'm just going to have to bite the bullet on this one and take $500 fee on this one. And then that way, we can at least close this deal. So the first person, the first Astro student who originally locked up the deal made $3,500, I think, on that one. And then I got $500 on the initial end. And then the other Astro member who brought the buyer to the table. Now, everyone keep in mind, this is her buyer. She wine and dines them. She takes very, very good care of them. So she made $15,000 on that one.
Nice.
And she basically was like, hey, thank you for biting the bullet. So, she hooked me up. So I was very grateful for that. So long story short, I got about $2,500.
$2,500 out of that deal. Awesome. The great base hit. Nothing to complain about for $2,500. What does it look like since then? Let's talk about your volume and what is your monthly cadence looking like?
Yeah, sure. So since then, the deal flows have definitely started coming in. I did 2 more last month, and I'm hoping to do 3 to 4 more this month. So again, ironically, the deal after the first one was with another Astro member.
Yep.
So they basically joined the group and were like, hey, I have a deal that I'm looking to sell. So I reached out to them. They sent me the deal. And then, I brought the buyer to the table, and that's how that one ended up happening. Now, they're also they have a lot of buyers as well. So they were actually kind of looking out for me on this deal because they had a buyer at $295, and I told them I had a buyer at $300.
Okay.
So they're like, all right, I'll assign it to you at $295, and then you reassign it at $300. Awesome. So I made $5,000 on that one, and they made $10,000.
Beautiful. And that's an interesting thing about the Astro community, right? I think that what I've seen a lot of other mentorships do is try to separate the people within the community, separate the students from each other, because and again, this isn't shade on anybody, but it's just realistically, if students can't talk to each other, then they can't discuss how their results are.
Right.
And that's a big reason why they keep people, or these programs keep students away from each other from being able to communicate. How is that different in Astro?
Yeah, so Astro, like you were saying, I wouldn't necessarily say they keep people away from each other in other groups, but there's no real communication, I find. It's just like, hey, join the group, and that's really it. This group, it was, you join the group. Everyone's very social on Facebook, but I would say the coaching calls is, a huge game changer. The amount of people I've met on the coaching calls alone, again, those connections are priceless. And so really the rapport building in the community, the amount of people who share, stories with each other, who are willing to go on Facebook, show their outreach methods, willing to go make YouTube videos to share with other people. It's just a very, very collaborative community.
Love it. Love it. So, for a new person just getting started in the business, how would you compare what you learn in Astro to the other, more traditional forms of lead generation or wholesaling?
Sure. So one thing I want to point out too with your guys' course compared to, some of the other courses is your focus on mindset. I think that's very overlooked, with other courses. But going back to your question with outreach, I think a lot of the courses kind of say the same thing, direct mail, cold calling, Facebook ads, Google ads. And again, from my journey in the very beginning, I bounced around from all of those,
right.
Where you guys more focus on, building relationship with others, whether it's wholesalers, cash buyers, other investors, investing companies, wholesalers, whoever it may be. You guys really promote the idea of building those connections and being able to utilize those connections to make everybody money.
Right.
And, bring value to everyone. And so I think that's the main difference, you guys compared to other courses.
Love it. Love it. And I love that you brought up mindset. Let's dive into that a little bit, because I know that is a subject that you truly enjoy, as do I. What are some practices, Jacob, that you employ every day to stay as, motivated, as positive, and have your eyes open for opportunities as well as they are?
Sure. So basically when I was in college, I dabbled around in some wrong things, and I was at a very negative place in my life, I guess. I always say that I wasn't negative. I was being realistic in a way, right? Anyone would say something, I'd be like, oh, that's not going to happen. This is. No, like, dude, why are you so negative? I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. I fell victim to the same path, right? It's you just see evidence over and over and over again, and then your mind starts to always look for the result, that negative result, or that thing not to work out. And so I understand what you're talking about, because I've been there. So what shifted for you?
Yeah, so ironically, it was coming across like motivational speakers. And so I started really, deep diving into motivational speakers and listening to what they had to say. And they were all basically saying the same thing. And then when I think it was when I got into wholesaling, the books that people were bringing up were like, Think and Grow Rich, right, and all these different books. And so I'm like, okay, if everyone's reading these books, there has to be something to it. So I started reading a lot of books, and that really was what started changing my mindset. And then within that time period, I started meditating as well. So some of my practices that I do every single day today to help, keep my mind fresh and keep my mind going is basically, when I wake up every single morning, I write 5 things in my gratitude journal. And within those 5 things, I really try to focus on things that money can't necessarily buy me. And so I'm grateful that I have both my arms, both my legs.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that.
First off, like I lost use of one arm when I broke it, and I lost use of one leg when I broke my ankle, all within a very short period of time. Simple thing, but like legitimate, dude. I was miserable for not being able to function normally, and I it's so overlooked all the time until you don't have them. And I was that guy. I was that guy that didn't give thanks to just the normal things in my body, like vision, smelling, auditory, taste, use of my hands and arms and legs and feet, and just basic things that we just take for granted all the time. But how did you remember to give thanks for that? How did you remember to have gratitude for things that you should feel entitled to have just because you were born with them?
I think it was like Jim Quick, or someone who really focuses on personal development. And so, it was definitely Jim Quick where I heard the gratitude journal from. I'm not sure where I picked up the non-monetary things, but I figure, there's so much in life that we can buy, but we're always grateful for those things, right? Everyone's always great. I'm grateful for the house I have or this, and I'm always grateful for that too. But, to your point, it's often overlooked. Like you didn't realize really with your leg or your arm. And so I always try to look at those things. And I think a good perspective came from YouTube videos. Honestly, I watch a lot of travel YouTube videos while I was on the phones.
Awesome.
And so I would see people traveling in, foreign countries that are a lot less fortunate than us. And I'm like, dang, like just the stuff that they don't have that we have that we overlook on a regular basis. I think that's really where that came from. And so that's what I try to focus on in the mornings.
Beautiful. Jacob, what books are you recommending, or what one are you reading right now?
So I am reading Good to Great. Some of the books that I would definitely recommend, though, are The Go-Giver. Another one would be, what's it called? The Slight Edge from Jeff Olson. It just talks about how, it's easy to do things as easily as it's easy not to do things, I guess. So like you can sit on the couch for an hour a day and watch TV. That's easy to do. But you can also sit on the couch and watch a book or read a book instead. And that's just as easy to do.
Right.
So The Slight Edge. I could go on forever, to be honest with you.
Love it. What would you like to share with people that are getting started in their journey in entrepreneurship? Of course, there's so many ways to skin a cat, right? You can do well financially in stocks if you understand them. A ton of guys made a bunch of money off GameStop just recently. I didn't get involved.
Right.
I'm not, in the pump game. But some people do really well in cryptocurrency, and some people do really well in drop shipping and Amazon stuff. And, I've just never, for me, real estate was always what attracted me. And I love buildings. I love homes. We all live in one. We drive by them all the time. It's architecture, and especially from historical architecture, is just something that draws me to it.
Mm-hmm.
What would you give as advice to a new entrepreneur looking to make a change in their financial destiny?
The biggest advice that I can share with anyone is consistency. So I've actually tried, Amazon FBA. I've tried the drop shipping. I've looked at, stocks. I've looked at day trading. I've looked at cryptocurrency. And when I got to wholesaling, I was like, look, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to make this happen. And I stuck with it. And I made it happen. Right. So my biggest advice would be consistency, whether it's your marketing strategy, whether it's whatever business you're trying to stick with, just be consistent. And even going into my business, when I find that I'm not seeing the results that I'm looking for, if I take a step back and kind of look at, the grand scheme of things, a lot of times I'm not doing what I should be. And so again, it goes back to consistency. I think, anyone getting started, just give it 6 months, a year. If you're not even 2 years, right? It took me a year and a half to get my first deal. And then after that, it was like 3 months or 5 months to get my next one, then 3 months, then 2 months, and then I got 3 in 1 month. So just got to be consistent.
Consistency. Love it. Love it. So seeing that, consistency, building relationships and having a positive outlook and working on your mind has been and from what I'm distilling here, the recipe to your success. How replicatable do you think that is for somebody else to implement into their lives?
Very replicatable. I mean, you just, whether it's wholesaling, whether it, like you said, drop shipping, whatever it might be, if you stick with it and you have a good mindset, you make sure you're in the right place, and then you just keep at it, I think you'll see success.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. So we're rounding out the near end of our 30 minutes that we have, Jacob. I want to give you an opportunity to share with people how they can reach you. If there's any socials that you want to throw out there as well. How can people work with Jacob Simpson?
Sure. So again, if you're in the DC, Maryland, Virginia market, I have plenty of buyers lined up here ready to pull the trigger and close on some deals. Even if you're not in the DMV market, I would love to, help you sell some deals if it's in a promising area. If you're in the DMV market and you just need some help, or wherever you're at and you need some help, feel free to reach out. My Instagram is Jacob Simpson 703. My YouTube is Jacob Simpson, and then like the little dash, real estate investing. So you can reach out to me in either one of those areas. And then my Facebook is just Jacob Simpson. I don't know if there's like a tag for that, but that's where it is. But again, awesome. I'd be happy to help anyone who needs some help or assistance, and I'm ready to do some deals with everyone.
Love it, man. Love it. So I've got your Instagram actually put on the notes here. Guys, if you got some value from Jacob today and appreciated hearing his story, do us a favor, please. Smash the like button. Subscribe to this channel if you're not already subscribed, and leave him a comment. Jacob took some time out of his day to be on this program with us. He is in my Astro Flipping mentorship. He's one of my favorite guys. I really enjoy Jacob a lot. He shows up to every coaching call and continuously brings not only his heart, but he brings the reality of whatever his situation is, right? And that's it. The key to success in this business is being 1,000,000% okay with knowing that your success is down the road, or that you have to continue trying, you have to continue to strive. It doesn't always just materialize day one. You're going to have to try at this. You're going to have to take some lumps, take some bruises, stub your toe. But great things aren't your entitlement in life. You aren't entitled to a great life, but you are entitled to strive for it. And by striving for it, you can achieve it, right? And so that's something that I'm watching Jacob, as well as so many other Astro Flipping students, be able to say that they're living. Jacob, if you would you share with anybody a parting thought, or what your heart has you or wants you to share with people right now before we're done?
For sure. So on the note of what you just said, it is always a journey. Some of my favorite mantras, or two of my favorite mantras, are things don't always happen to us, they happen for us. And for every negative, there's a positive, right? And so as long as you keep pushing, no matter how many deals are falling through, no matter what experiences are coming your way, as long as you are learning from them and you keep pushing through them, you're winning, in my opinion, right? But it's when you fall back and you let those experiences overwhelm you and you're not learning from them and you keep making the same mistakes, that's when you get hurt. So
beautiful.
Lost deals, whatever, keep pushing.
So true. It's so true. Your results oftentimes come from mining the situation you're in that might look painful, right? You always grow from something that is there to challenge you in life. So Jacob, thank you again so much for taking the time out of your day to be with us. I'm super proud of you, man. You are not only a jewel of an individual to have around, you're such a help to other students, and you're always offering your assistance. You're always being a go-giver in the group. You're a go-giver to so many people. And I just want to let everyone know that if you're feeling like you want to reach out to Jacob, please do. He's an amazing guy. If you have any deals in the DMV area that you need some help with, either through just knowing what price you need to lock the deal up at, or if you need a buyer, Jacob can absolutely help you. He is a go-giver. His heart is in service, and I appreciate you for that. Jacob, thank you so much for being the second guest of my podcast to the moon. My friend, you are with me on the moon, man, and I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. Well, thank you for bringing me on the moon, and thank you for all you provide us in the group as well.
My bro. Goodbye, guys. Thanks so much.
Take care, everyone.